The jailed Iranian Nobel Peace Prize winner Narges Mohammadi could die in prison unless she's urgently given proper health care after suffering 2 suspected heart attacks in recent weeks. Supporters are warning this Tuesday. They're based in Paris. They say she's fighting for her life after being hospitalised under guard for the last 5 days due to her heart condition. So, Doug, the growing crackdown in Iran, few Iranians now dare protest.
Yeah, it's intensifying, right? You know, we don't talk about the crackdown against dissent really anymore because we're so concentrated on the military skirmishes across Hormuz. But the fact of the matter is, you'll remember we reported, and some of the official figures given to us from the human rights watchdog Khorana before the war was, up to 7,000 killed. Almost all of them, about 6,500 of them, were protesters killed by a brutal crackdown by Iranian forces who just brook no dissent, no protest, no criticism. When I say it's intensified is that the UN has said basically that since the war, you've had about over 20 executions. I think the number is 21, and you've had 4,000 arrests. Now, there have been arrests. There have been executions. There has been a surge in threats from the regime. If before it was dangerous to go out on the streets and protest, and what I mean by before, it's the before days, right? Before February 28th and the outbreak of hostilities, U.S. and Iran and U.S. And Israel attacking Iran. Now it's even more dangerous because if you go out, you literally risk your life. The Revolutionary Guard Corps, the police chief, the police authorities in the big cities have basically warned: you go out there, you will be shot. You risk being shot. So Iranians are not taking to the street. It doesn't mean that they're anymore. It doesn't mean that they're not equally as frustrated, and many of them extremely just angry at the way these events have unraveled. Angry, yes, at their own government, but also at the U.S. because Donald Trump hasn't really turned out to be the great savior that he perhaps suggested he was going to be. Iranians take to the streets, we're there for you, I have your back. He hasn't had their back. There's no
mention of that anymore.
He hasn't armed them. He hasn't done anything for them. He's been asked about that, but the Iranian people, a lot of them, they will say right now that he seems to have put them on the back burner. They're no longer the priority. All you hear about is the Strait of Hormuz. You hear about the nuclear question. You hear about regime change, but you don't really hear about the people anymore. The figures actually right now, I believe, are about 4,000 arrests since February 28th. I mentioned 21 executions. So this really is an intensifying crackdown. It is nationwide. It's continuing everywhere. And far from the sort of wiping the old regime and the old brutal forces out of power, you right now have a situation where they are perhaps emboldened and empowered, and they now have perhaps more of a reason. Donald Trump has perhaps given them more of a reason to hunker down, dig in their heels, because they see it as they have nothing to lose at this point.
Douglas, thank you very much indeed. Douglas Herbert, our international affairs commentator.